As many of you know, we're in the process of building a shipping container house, and we've shared a lot about our alternative construction. But in today's video, I'll be sharing a different kind of alternative construction. Recently, our family in France built a new home, and they documented majority of the process from start to finish. This type of construction is very different from the wood-framed houses we have in North America. So let's dive in and see how they build houses in the south of France. The area that they are building in is in a seismic zone, so to meet the county requirements for the foundation, they had to dig a relatively deep trench to set up the footings. Also, the weight of the house is significantly heavier than wood-framed housing. You will see why later in this video, so the size of the foundation has to reflect that as well. Calling in a concrete truck is not as simple as it is in the US. The streets are so narrow and the access can be very tricky and limited. Some streets require a special permit for any large vehicle, which adds another layer of planning and scheduling. This is the pump truck that they used to fill up the footing with concrete. The rebar they used for the foundation is next level. As I mentioned before, the construction is in a seismic zone, and the weight of the house is going to be very heavy. Therefore, the rebar had to be that way to meet the engineering requirements. They used cinder blocks in place of concrete dobies to hold the rebar up off the footing. Once all the rebar was tied and set, they used the same concrete pump truck to pour the concrete to fill up the trenches. They didn't use any forms since it was all poured in the ground. Next up, they started placing the cinder blocks on top of the foundation that they poured and tied them into the remaining rebar for the house. This foundation looks insanely strong considering the house will be about 500 square feet on each level. So they laid the cinder blocks in place and then poured the concrete inside all of the cinder blocks. This area will eventually become the crawl space under the house where most of the utilities will be. Okay, now we are getting into the first floor of the house. As you will see in this video, they love concrete because they use it for almost every part of the house in the south of France. Here, they are setting up forms to pour a floating concrete slab for the first floor. They have pre-made concrete beams and foam that they connect together to create an insulated concrete form for the slab. After the forms were set, they laid the rebar on top and started pouring the slab. They will be adding another layer on top of this concrete, so the finish wasn't important. Okay, now this is what they're using to build the walls of the house. It's called biobrick, which is sort of like a ceramic cinder block. The product is great because it provides insulation for the house by trapping air in the interior chambers of the bioblock, and they are ecological in their production. They are made in France and come in a variety of sizes and configurations. They use mortar on the first layer and adhesive to connect all of them together. They stack them on top of each other to create the walls, and they fill the corners with concrete and rebar. Here they are setting up the openings for some of the doors. They basically create a concrete form and pour concrete as the frame for the doors and windows. And just like that, the first level is set up. The house is going to have 2 levels with a small attic area on top. So now they're working on the second level of the house. As I mentioned before, they love using concrete in the south of France, which is what they are using for the second floor. They laid out the insulated concrete forms around the edges of the slab and used these wood fiber forms for the center of the floor. If you watched our previous video, this is the same thing we used for our tiny slab that we poured. They also built the form for the stairs, which they will also use concrete for. A concrete pump truck came and they poured the floating slab for the second level and the stairs at the same time. If you didn't know this, we also have a floating concrete slab in our container house. And the thing I love about them is they are not only super strong, but they also don't bounce or squeak like wood floors sometimes do. Once the floor and the stairs were set, they did the same steps with the biobrick on the second level. It's really interesting to see different building techniques and how they are put together. I know I definitely learned a lot when we did our small concrete slab in France. The biggest lesson was how great the metric system is, but I digress. So the second level is all set up, and now they will work on building the attic space and the roof. But first, a word from today's sponsor. Dual suspension, extended seat, hydraulic brakes, and dual batteries, this bike has it all. Let me introduce you to the ultimate adventure e-bike, the RAEV Bullet GTX.
The RAEV Bullet GTX is like nothing I've ever tried before.
This e-bike is the closest thing to a cafe racer I've ever seen, and it's an absolute pleasure to ride. The RAEV Bullet GTX features hydraulic suspension in the front and air suspension in the back, which enable the bike to glide over any bumpy terrain. Trails, beaches, or dirt roads, the eHuntsman Fat Tire is the perfect tire for both on and off-road. And with advanced override technology, it offers triple the puncture protection compared to other models. I love that this bike comes with dual batteries, allowing a range of up to 50 plus miles in Class 2 throttle only and 100 plus miles in Class 1 pedal assist. With the 52-volt brushless rear hub motor, the RAEV Bullet GTX has a max speed of up to 35 miles per hour, so you can really cruise with this bike. I found the extended seat to be really comfortable and allow for a wide range of sitting positions. With a 330-pound weight capacity, you can do a lot with this bike. Carry a second person with the optional foot pegs, haul a surfboard with the optional board carrier, or store gear on the optional rear rack.
This e-bike has a super long range. I love the extended seat and the overall aesthetic.
I am super impressed with the RAEV Bullet GTX. We are having a great experience with it. The quality is top-notch, and with the dual suspension, this bike rides like a dream. I love the extended seat and the bright yellow color. This e-bike is definitely going to be top of our list for summer adventures this year, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where it will take us. Be sure to click the exclusive link in the description if you're interested in picking up a RAEV Bullet GTX e-bike and ride in style this summer. Don't forget to use our discount code for $50 off your purchase. Special thank you to RAEV e-bikes for sponsoring this video. Now, let's get back to it. For the floor, they are doing the exact same thing as the second level. Insulated forms on the outside and the wood fiber forms on the inside. Adding the rebar and then pouring the floating slab. After the floor was set up, they installed the BioBrick for the walls. For the roof, they are using large wooden beams for the main part of the structure and wood framing in between the beams. In southern France, it seems like everybody uses ceramic or terracotta roof tiles, which is what they're going to be using here. After the wood frame is set up, they install the roof tiles on top. After all the roof tiles are installed, they pour concrete to fill the voids. I told you guys, they love concrete. Now that the structure of the house is built, it's time for some finishing work. First up, they installed the doors and windows. To do so, they placed and leveled the windows and doors in the opening, and then screwed the windows and doors into the walls using metal brackets on each side. Once all the windows and doors are installed, they're going to be moving on to framing and insulation. For framing, they used steel studs on each level of the house, and they insulated the house with fiberglass. Then they installed drywall over the steel framing and insulation. For the utilities, they run them across the flooring of the house and clamp them down with metal brackets. They do this on each level of the house for all of the utilities, both plumbing and electric. At this point, they installed drainage along the exterior of the house and backfilled against the cinder blocks of the foundation of the house. It seems like almost all of the exterior of the buildings and houses in southern France are made with stucco. And that's what they are doing here. Another thing that they absolutely love in this part of Europe is tile. They don't typically finish concrete here, they just install tile over the top. So for the interior of the house, they pour a thin layer of concrete on top of all of the utilities, level it out, and then install tile on top. And they do that for each level of the house. And now that the construction of the house is complete, it's time to do the fun stuff like install the kitchen, bathroom, and furniture, etc. Overall, it's really cool to see the building techniques of different areas and how they construct things. They have a lot of differences from how we typically build in North America, but they also have some similarities as well. Special thank you to our family in France for sharing all of these photos of this build with us, so that I can share them with you. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about how they do construction in southern France. As always, you guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next video. Help support our channel by leaving a comment, liking, and sharing this video. As always, you guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to keep up with our projects and adventures on Pacific Pines Ranch. We put out new videos every Saturday, and sometimes even during the week, so be sure to subscribe and hit the notification button so you don't miss any. Okay, bye!